Well, if you're up in the middle of the night, flipping through channels, you might just come across a face that we have right next to us. Robert Melnichuk hosts our middle of the night program called It's Your Call, right next door in the studio next door here. I believe it comes out of Robert. Thanks for joining us.
Well, it's my pleasure.
You look great for a guy that doesn't get much sleep.
I don't sleep. I'm high right now on coffee.
Yeah, and coffee. Keeps you going. Mm-hmm. Well, Robert, give us a little bit of an understanding for those who maybe have not caught the program yet in the middle of the night, just kind of what the overall idea of is It's Your Call.
Well, one of my, the great aspect of what I get to do is I get to talk to those who aren't Christians. In other words, one of the words we could use is maybe hostile to the faith. These are the people that say, you know what, I listen to what you're saying, but I don't really believe it. And so I get to have this conversation, and we deal with stuff that they're hostile against, such as Jesus. Did he actually exist? Well, was he crucified? Did he rise from the dead? And then you talk about the Bible. Well, you're all preaching this, they say preaching, but talking about this morality stuff and ethics. Well, the Bible, we don't even believe the Bible. So what I get to do is start from the basics. Open up the conversation and do what we can to provide enough evidence to begin to convince them to say, you know what, maybe what you're talking about, there's some truth to it. And it's interesting, 2 weeks ago, I had an individual who's an atheist, totally saying, you know what, the Bible, absolutely not true. Well, I have this person convinced to say, okay, the Bible you say is true, I'll give you that, but I'm not going to accept the fact that Jesus was God. So that's kind of the next step we do. So it's a passionate, I'm passionate about being able to deal with the truth of the Scriptures, but just engage these hostile people.
Hopefully some of them are not hostile, but just skeptical.
Well, they're skeptical, but they like the word hostile because if they can get you arguing with them, that's a bonus. But no, when I say hostile, our approach to it is simply just pleasant conversation, but they're kind of butting themselves up to what we believe.
Well, at Crossroads, you know, part of our whole reason for existing is to connect with people along their whole spiritual journey, you know, whether they are on the hostile to God or whether they're seeking God, or maybe they're at the point of really ready to make a step of faith toward God, or maybe they're new believers or mature believers. We want to be able to connect with you at any point along there, and I'm glad you're there in the middle of the night and having it as a two-way conversation, because people can actually call right in.
And we do have people that have watched the show for a while, and I do get the reports from the prayer partners that they would say, well, listen, I've been watching this guy on TV, and after a few months, yeah, I believe what he's talking about. And they do give their lives to Christ. So it's a different way of getting people to say yes to Jesus.
And your consistency, your faithfulness in being there builds relationship and trust. It's not like somebody popping up with an idea. You're building.
And you know, one of the most comments I get is, and they'll say, this guy on TV, he allows people to share their point of view without saying, no, I'm right and you're wrong. And that's what makes it such a blessing to so many people.
Open forum.
Yeah. You brought a clip?
We did, and the clip real quickly, it's got a gentleman on it that begins who is a Jewish person, doesn't believe Jesus is the Son of God, and Paul was a liar. Then I've got someone who's a universalist. Great guy, but in the conversation, he concludes it by saying, you know what, everybody's going to get to heaven, and then I kind of just put together the gospel in a nutshell.
All right.
Ooh, goody.
Well, let's watch the clip.
Creating a Christ of faith. Is it possible for a person to experience a biblical transformation if Jesus were not who we claim to be?
So Paul is boasting about his defrauding, lying, and robbing in his letter. So what kind of transformation what fruit do we see from Paul?
I got to admit, Robert, I totally disagree with you. I don't find anywhere, I've actually never heard anyone, either a liberal or conservative scholar, say that Paul was actually lying.
God is very interesting. The mystery of God is very interesting. When I think when God finally sets his heart and mind to proving himself to the world and sending Jesus back to this world and finally really engaging fully in ultimate universal salvation, as I've said before, I believe in universal salvation, I think we're going to be very surprised to see who it is that God and Jesus actually choose.
And I think we missed that clip at the end where you were going to kind of wrap things up. But what was it that you kind of concluded with there?
I always challenge our folks to the fact that here's what we believe. Jesus died for our sins according to the Scriptures, was buried, and rose again the third day according to the Scriptures. And we argue, when I say argue, I don't mean get in this heated debate, but we argue on that premise and say, listen, that's what we believe, and we can provide the evidence to help support that.
And contrary to the view of universalists, your volition is involved. You have to choose to receive the gift that was given 2,000 years ago.
And we've done a number of programs on that, but it's great to have people like that gentleman that called in just to have a dialogue. And we get to converse about it, and I get to share the gospel, and they know what we believe, but they just love the challenge. And we get this huge audience of people tuning in simply because we allow them to share their perspective, and let's just talk the gospel.
Well, you know, when you think about it, God does not force His will on anyone. He's not going to force anyone into heaven. It's a choice we make. And that's the spirit of your exchange with those who are, I hope, seeking.
Yes.
I hope they're not just looking for a fight.
No, they're seeking, and we give them the opportunity to make that choice.
And you handle a variety of topics. It's not all just, you know, straight apologetics, as it's called, but you'll deal with different kind of hot topics that are up in the news or what people are thinking.
Current topics.
So how can people watch it? Because I know it's not only on television.
No, there's also, you can go to it'syourcall.tv, and we actually stream live during our program. So if you got a computer anywhere in the world, it'syourcall.tv, there's a box there in the top right-hand corner. Click on it, they can watch the show.
Tremendous.
Or if you're watching on CTS, you can watch it from 1 to 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And so, Robert, thanks for what you're doing as part of our team here at Crossroads, and thanks to all our supporters who are helping to make that possible, as well as a variety of things that we do here at Crossroads. You're making a big difference. All right?
Go home and get some sleep.